Good afternoon, evening, good morning, good whatever time it is where you're at. Let me mute that stuff. Actually, let me see if it's working first before I turn that all off. Hear my voice coming across the line. Oh, there's a delay. Background music. Wow, there's really a long delay. There it is. Listen to myself. Afternoon, evening. All right, so it's working. Excellent. Well, hello everybody from Central. Are we in South Central Texas? I guess San Antonio. Oh, what a week! What a week it has been. I feel for those that are still having issues. I know that we're not all 100% yet. Good. Let's see. Good. It's afternoon already here. Good afternoon, Raspy. How are you? Yeah. I mean, I take for granted things, and we had power outages, of course, in Texas, and some people I think still maybe have a little bit of a power issue. Most of San Antonio is back on. There's nothing weather related off at this point. It's individual failed equipment or those line fuses or whatever, but not very many. Water is almost all back on in the San Antonio area. 98% of San Antonio as of this morning has water now. Michael West, hey bro, what's happening? So we're good with water. We're still boiling water. We are under a boil water notice. I was just looking at the map a minute ago on my phone here, and we're kind of we're getting closer to not having to boil water, but we're not there yet. A big chunk of San Antonio got released into the green today, but we are not. So we will continue to boil water, and we will continue to drink our alternative drinks. So one of the things that occurred, and those of you that have gone through the pandemic type of things, is that whenever our water stopped working, people rushed to the grocery stores and purchased water, and that is in short supply. What apparently wasn't in short supply was seltzer water or flavored sparkling water. So I was able to pick up a few cases of flavored sparkling water. So I've been enjoying raspberry sparkling water for the last few days. But we are boiling water. We have electricity to boil water again. We're keeping stuff filled up in that regard. And my heart goes out to those that are still struggling. It could have been worse. I heard we had intermittent power over the last week. We would have periods of 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there with power, and 8 to 9 to 10 hours without power. And then it slowly kind of, not reversed, but kind of evened out, where we had a couple hours of power and then a few hours of no power. So none of my backup power was long enough to handle any of that. Pretty much killed it on the first day. And so I want to just kind of throw out my heartfelt, sympathies to those that are still struggling on that. I know it's still an issue for a lot. I watched the 8-Bit Guy. If anyone follows the 8-Bit Guy, his house flooded up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Even outside of Texas. If you ever watch Craft Computing, another tech channel, he does servers and that kind of thing. His sump pumps failed. He lives below grade, but his sump pumps failed and it flooded his whole basement. Killed a lot of his equipment. Fortunately, his studio space ended up surprisingly to be kind of dry. But the equipment that was under 2 or 3 inches of water didn't survive. So anyway, that's all going on. So at one point I saw something where 70% of the United States was had snow cover. So I'm spending a few minutes talking about it because it was an event for us here. And there's going to be some fallout. There's going to be some after action. There's going to be some learning how to deal with this situation in the future. Tesla Powerwalls might get real popular. Man, I wish I could get one of those. That would be awesome. I think that'll run your house for a full day, maybe. All of your house for the most part. So that would be fun. Anyway, today, what are we going to do today? Well, one of the things I learned over the course of this last week is that I need something that's a little less power hungry. And I don't know. We're going to do some comparisons here in a minute. But I'm going to get this thing going. I've installed on this blue because I wasn't sure how I wanted to present that to you all. So I've been not using this because I either wanted to make video series on building it from scratch and redoing everything, or maybe doing a live stream. Well, it kind of forced the issue this week. So I'm going to assume that this probably draws less power than my desktop computer thing that I'm using. I'm using a Lenovo ThinkCentre M. I think it says M82 for my Home Assistant setup, and it's a small tower or desktop type mini tower PC. So you go from that to this. I'm assuming we're going to be pulling some fewer watts as we do that. I rigged this up a little while ago. This is where I have my washing machine stuff, and so I'm using the appliance switch to measure the wattage used. And I started graphing that, and I only started graphing that about an hour ago or so. And it's roughly in the 25 watt range where that Lenovo sits. And this guy right here, I don't know what the specs are on it. I'm going to plug it into that same power strip here in a few minutes and see what it pulls under load, just because I want to see what difference we are. So what's really driving this right now is I want to have this running on my UPS so that it lasts longer than what my other stuff did. It takes a little bit of the load off of everything. By the way, is my Raspberry, I guess you're looking, is my voice and video in sync? It looks kind of off to me, which is disappointing. I've played with that and played with it, so, but I'm not sure if it's in sync or not. Let me try something here. So if I go to this, I don't know, it looks the same to me. I don't know if it's in sync or not. You'll have to tell me. You got nothing in Arizona. Texas was the big winner in this mess that we got. You can read all the stories about our power generation and how we are doing things here in Texas in terms of, regulation, and we run our own power grid. Mike says close enough. All right, cool. So whenever we have a failure like this, we don't have any, we have some tie points to some other areas of the country outside of our borders, but they're in the 500 megawatt range and whatnot. We were in a deficit of something like, don't quote me on this, but I think I read something in the 20 to 40,000 megawatt range. We lost that much generating capacity, and so there was just no way we could get anything from anybody else to make up for that. And then the Midwest had their own issue, so then we couldn't get any power from them at all anyway. All right. So we're digging out. Everything is cool. And we are going to proceed. Somebody made a joke about this, and humorous. You have to take it with a grain of salt. It's humor, but they said something like, next time we get a week off from work, we don't want to have to try to survive during that week. Pretty much last week for work, we worked when we could. The thing about power, of course, is when the power goes out, you have no internet. And I have fiber from my local telco here. It's just home fiber. And it's got the little box. It sits on the wall with it's supposed to have a battery in it, but the provider doesn't give batteries anymore. They don't want to maintain the batteries. It's up to the consumer to power that device when the power goes out. I never even considered that because I have a UPS on it. But for some reason, I have that fiber device, and then I have the modem that is the actual, it provides the internet service to the house. And then, of course, I have my router and stuff. So you have fiber box, which powers the fiber itself. You have the modem, which is the actual communications device from the ISP. And then, of course, all my networking gear. Whenever the power went out, and I was about ready to test this, because after my family went off to another house to kind of keep warm and stuff, I stayed here to watch the pipes and stuff in case things unfroze and started leaking. I was going to do an experiment. By the time I figured out how to set the experiment up to determine what was pulling all the power out of my UPS on that ISP stuff, the power didn't go back off again. So it seems like that little modem, for some reason, would drain my UPS, my 1500 kV, or what is it, 1500 watt? I forgot. It's 1500, whatever the term is. It would drain that in about 10 minutes. I thought I had at least 1 to 2 hours of internet backup power, which means I had the Wi-Fi AP, and then I had everything else in there. I think that whole thing pulled, I did a spreadsheet buildup of that. It pulled about, at max, 60 watts potentially. So that would have given me probably an hour of runtime, but it really only lasted 5 to 10 minutes. So I don't know what was going on. Maybe old batteries. It's really helping me to reevaluate my backup power, which is why we're going to try to get the blue going today. All right. So with that, I did some preliminary work, very, very preliminary, just a couple things. And one of the things I wanted to check on here was the load on my current device. So you can kind of see this. I don't think I can blow it up anymore. This is that Lenovo device, or Lenovo mini desktop. And so the CPU usage at the time I took this snapshot, whatever was happened to be going on, was about 0.4% CPU, 8.2% RAM. That's under core supervisor. And I don't know how this is really broken up. I mean, if you add it all together, what's the total? Like 0.5% CPU, about, let's say 10% memory. And then I've got 25% use space. And so that's what we're starting with. What I'm curious about is I'm running a whole bunch of things on my device here. And so if I look at my list of add-ons, for example, that'll give us a good idea. So I'm running AdGuard. That's my primary DNS server for the house. I'm running Bitwarden. That's my password manager. I'm running Grafana. Now, these are the ones I think are going to be big ones. Grafana, Influx, and Node-RED are all probably going to be big devices. Now, you can actually look somewhere on here. They used to, somewhere. I thought you could see, here it is. You can see what is being used by each of these add-ons individually. But this is running at 4% CPU usage, or I'm sorry, memory. So we've got 4% memory for Node-RED. So I would assume these are probably going to be bigger users of things than other stuff. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I've got Grafana, Influx. Maria is running because Maria is required by something. Oh, by Nginx Proxy Manager. I'm not really running that on this. I'm running that on the little Raspberry Pi. I've got an MQTT broker. Portainer is part of the setup. Samba Share I'm running for my snapshots. I don't know how to pronounce this. I say it Tatili. That's my Plex monitoring deal. I run Plex on my NAS, but I use this kind of monitor things. Terminal SSH, Unify Controller is a big one. That's probably a big one. Let's see what it's running. Yeah. Okay, so 17.3%. Now, that's probably the number one user of RAM on my whole system here. That's interesting. We'll keep that in mind. If I start having problems, maybe I'll offload that cloud key to something else. But that's what's running, the Unify Controller. Visual Studio Code, I'm doing standalone, so not there. WireGuard, I'm running, and then, of course, Z-Wave JS to MQTT. Those are my add-ons. I got a bunch of other integrations that run. So what I want to see is how well this blue is going to handle all these things. And that's why I went from the Raspberry Pi, I think I was on a 3B plus or something in the past, to this desktop, because I started running things and I was concerned about overloading the Raspberry Pi, and I was on an SD card, which is bad. I mean, if you take like your Grafana or your Influx data and everything else, and that goes away because your SD card blows up, you've lost your data if you don't have backups. So I was concerned about continuously writing to the SD card. All right. And on the blue, of course, we've got, let's see, where'd that go? Did it shut off? Of course it did. We've got the MD or the NVRAM on here, or NVRAM. NVMe. So we'll be running NVMe on here for our storage. So we'll see how that works out. But there's nothing really to see. I just thought I would do 2 cameras and show you. You know, if you haven't seen the blue, which I'm sure you all have seen the blue, it's out there everywhere. You know, I'm not going to do a video justice by talking about the blue. Everyone's reviewed this, or showed it at least. But it's got four USB ports. It's got a HDMI port, networking, of course, and then power. It's got its own power thing. I think this case sits over top of the original case. I don't have any lights or anything on here, and I haven't deconstructed it to really look at it. I'm not going to do that today. It's got a pretty nice heat sink on the bottom of it. Where are you at? Come over here. It's got a nice heat sink on the bottom. It's not hot at all. In fact, it's cool to the touch. And that's the other thing about my little desktop is it generates heat just sitting there. So we'll see how much heat we get whenever we put some load on it. So before we get started, let's look at a couple comments here. So Rasby says he got Z-Wave.js working with a Z-Wave thermostat that never had working. Thanks for the guide. Oh, you're welcome. I've seen a lot of that where Z-Wave.js or Z-Wave.js, actually things that people have never been able to use in the past, they're able to use now. I will say that I have, while we're looking at that and talking about it, I do have, I'm going to open the web UI. So I'm using Z-Wave.js to MQTT, and I'm using that so I can set settings on my devices as well as do stuff like polling. So where is, maybe under settings? So I'm looking for the polling thing. Yep, maybe here. Here we go. So my quick set door locks don't show me the state whenever they're turned manually. And so what I did was I set up polling, and it pulls every 10 seconds. And I'm doing it 10 seconds. 10 seconds is the minimum amount of time you can set on this pull interval. And I know it's 10 seconds seems like a lot. And I am seeing some weirdness with when I try to turn a light off or do something like that, I am seeing some really slow response. I have always, in all of my Z-Wave setups, anytime I interact with these locks, it seems like the whole network just comes to a pause for a few seconds or half a minute or something. I don't know what's going on in the background. I've never really troubleshot that. But when I open a lock or close a lock with Z-Wave, it seems to kind of just pause everything. And I think that's kind of happening as well. The other thing I notice, sometimes my garage door controller is not always reporting its state, and I need to do some more experimentation with this. Last week was just with all the stuff going on, that thing last week was just a mess. So I didn't have time to do anything with this, but I'm curious if I need to leave this on here. But they talk about how polling is bad for your Z-Wave network because it introduces traffic on your network that potentially slows things down. So some of the things when let's say I'm trying to turn off a light in the kitchen using my app, I push it and I wait. And sometimes it takes a minute or more for it to respond to it. And I don't know what the state of the network is at that time, or if it's doing some polling that then is slowing everything down. I need to do some experimentation. I've heard most people say that Z-Wave.js is super fast. And so I'm going to attribute my issues to something I'm doing either with the polling, or maybe I have a node in my setup that's causing some sort of issue. So I'm not going to discount Z-Wave.js. I'm not going to go away from it because it's being well developed and well maintained, and a lot of stuff is going into it. I think it's the future of Z-Wave in terms of Home Assistant. So I'm going to continue to use it. The slowdowns and the things that I'm seeing are not really a showstopper necessarily. They're just inconveniences. And I didn't notice them as badly as I noticed them on, Z-Wave, Open Z-Wave Beta and the other ones. But again, when Z-Wave.js says don't use polling and I turn it on, I can only expect that I'm going to introduce some issues doing that. I don't know where this quick-set lock stuff is. There was a discussion that there was a PR or something being worked on. What the issue is, when I manually turn the locks, it doesn't report a state change, or it reports it to the wrong, class or something. And so it doesn't get put in the Home Assistant. And so I don't know that my locks are open or closed. By polling them, I actually get that information. So we'll see. I'll experiment with that later on. So Arjan says hi. Hi, Arjan. Welcome. Mike says blocking operation. It has to wait for the comms to finish. Yeah. So Mike, why is the lock? I mean, is it because it is one of the 3 items I have that are running in the secure mode? I attribute it to that. I think it's the secure mode that slows things down on Z-Wave. So I have both my door locks and my garage door controller run in secure mode with the network key. Those are the things that seem to slow the network down when they talk, and I think that's probably part of what's going on. Maybe it's doing its encrypt, decrypt stuff, or doing some logic on determining whether it's really allowed to do what it's doing and all that. So yeah, I get it's blocking. I just don't know what it's the actual communications background stuff is doing. Okay, all right. So what we're going to try to do is we are going to, I thought this through in my mind. This is the actual blue. So right now my blue is running, it's plugged in, I got power and everything like this. And it's showing the login screen. Well, I'm not going to go any farther because alternatively I can restore from a previous snapshot. I get nervous about this part. So what I've done is I have a Samba Share. Let's get out of Z-Wave. I have backups. I have nightly backups on my Home Assistant setup here. And what's interesting is I don't have a backup for the change I just made for watching the. Well, let's see if I can make one. These backups take forever on this device. Let me just say pre-move to blue. Take a full snapshot. We'll create it. I have a full snapshot from 11 hours ago. I run nightly Samba backups, and if you want to know how to do that, I have a video on that. It talks about doing it through Samba. It goes to my NAS, it stores on my NAS, and then I also talk about Google Drive on that as well. So if you're interested in making backup, you should be making snapshots. It doesn't matter how you make them. You should be making snapshots that you pull off of your device, because if you don't, if you make a snapshot, it stores it on your Home Assistant device. Well, that's not helpful if your thing crashes. So always make sure you're storing these things off to something else that's not your device. So secure means numbers crunching. So maybe look at CPU usage on blue while you do the operation. Yeah, I would think, and I don't know what this let's see here. All right, so it's a Lenovo M82. I don't know what the specifics are on this Lenovo M82. I could log into it with SSH and look at it. I don't know what the specs are on this device. Sorry, no more. Yeah, no, it's not around. It's old. Tech specs. That's not even what it looks like. Okay, forget that because that won't tell me anything. Let's just see if I can get on the device real quick. Yep, that'll work. I'm just going to look at stats directly on usage and processor. And I don't know if you can see this. I'll probably type my password wrong. Can I make it bigger? Change. Let's make it huge. All right. Ooh, that's plenty big. It's outside the streaming window now. All right, let me type the right password, and let's just take a quick look at what we really. Yeah, you know why? That's the wrong user. Let's try this again. It's going to put it back to the small font. Hold on a second. I'll get it. Live TV. I always like to say we're on live TV. All right, let's go here. Whoa, not do that. And one more time, let's make it so you can actually see it. Change the settings, let's change the appearance, the font size. I probably can do this with a key command, but I don't know how, so we will do it this way. Okay, so let's just look at just total memory on here. Oh, that the command worked even though I typed it wrong. That's nice. So I have 33 gig total. And of course, Linux always uses every bit of it that it can. It doesn't really tell me whether this is used or not, but you know, we're not running out of memory, but it's 3 gig. And then let's see what kind of CPU I have on this. So this is, it looks like a 4-core CPU. This is an i5 3.4 gig, well, 3.2 gig CPU. It's not terrible. It's an older generation, obviously, but it's a 4-core CPU. And so, yeah, we're really going to see how this compares. I'm really curious how this compares, how this is going to compare to the Blue. I'm not using much in the way of resources on the device now, but it is a 4-core CPU at 3.2 gig, and I don't know what the Blue is. I forgot, but we'll see. And then what's the drive space? No, that's not it. DF. Yeah, so I have a total of about 230 gig. 160 of gig is available, so I'm using 58 gig for a lot of this stuff. The Blue, man, what does the Blue have on it? We can. What are we saying we can? What are you saying we can to, Mike? All right, so it's 4 gig of RAM. It's 128 gig of eMMC already set up, all in one. What did I say? NVMe? I guess I got that wrong. Dev mode versus, and you can rotate the cover. If you're looking at the ports, you're in dev mode. If you're not looking at the ports, oh, you're in Zen mode. That's funny. All right, specifications. Here we go. 4 gig, 128 gig of RAM, 4 USB Type A ports, 1 HDMI. Does not have Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. I don't use either one. My stuff is plugged in. I mean, you can use Wi-Fi. My Raspberry Pi 4 is using Wi-Fi. Where's the... Here it is. 6-core Amlogic S922X processor. So it's an ARM version 8. Quad-core at 2.2. I guess I have that. Okay. Let us then move on to our next thing here. So we've taken a picture. I've talked about snapshots. Oh yeah, we're making a snapshot. See, that might take too long. I may have to just go without doing that. And we're running at 38 watts now as we're trying to make this snapshot. So we're really crunching the numbers. You can do top to see CPU usage real time and then do your thing and see if CPU spikes in a way related. Yeah. So I don't want to mess with the locks right now, but I do see obviously that running a backup is going to cause an issue. I'll run top on the Blue and see what it does, or maybe later on, I'm not sure. I say and so a lot. Let me take a drink of not water. I knew I shouldn't have started this backup thing because what I want to do, I'm not going to worry too much about it. All right, so let's do this. My brother Justin, also my brother Mike is on here, but my brother Justin moved over to the Blue recently, and he said his snapshot was too big. He had to actually SCP to the device. So I'm going to see what happens when we try to do this. I already made a copy of that SMB and stored it on my local computer, so I'm going to try to upload that. It's on my desktop. This is my Samba backup from 11 hours ago. I'm going to open it. And I don't think it likes that. Yeah. Okay, so that is one way to do this. I'm going to try a different way to do this and see if this works. I hope I don't destroy this entire thing in the process. Because it comes pre-installed with Home Assistant. You know, with the Raspberry Pi, I just reflash the Raspberry Pi if I break it and put it back. This one, I'm not sure I want to do that. So I guess it's doing something. I don't hear anything because it's all SSD. I can't tell if a drive's running or anything. Okay. Every time I start a live stream and I start doing stuff I haven't played with before, I talk about this being the shortest live stream ever. So let's try. I don't know what it did. Let me just refresh the screen. If it takes me back to this, then I know it didn't work. Meanwhile, still creating a snapshot on the other one. What I'm going to try to do while I'm waiting for this to... Man, did I break it already? Yeah. So either, and I went in earlier in this IP address, I went ahead and told it to use that IP address even with DHCP, so it should come back to the same IP address. I don't remember on the Pi if it went back out after I created an account and did some more setup work. Maybe it's going through its setup process, so we'll give it a minute to do something. Oh, it's auto refreshing now. Maybe it's seeing it on the network. This is backing up. This is spinning. The water's running somewhere. This was kind of cool. So I use Flume, by the way, a Flume water meter. And I didn't have water for, 3 or 4 days. And so I built this up on the day that we were thinking we would get water back because I wanted a visual indication of the water running. Number one, because I wanted to make sure that pipes weren't busted when the water came back on. If this thing skyrocketed in gallons per minute, I would have known there was a problem and I would go shut the water off. But I just left it. I think it's kind of cool. It tells you when the water's running in the house. The washing machine is filling up right now. Nothing else should be running. We do have water, so we are washing laundry, but that's the Flume doing its thing right now. And for those that haven't seen this, I've talked about this before, this Flume water thing. All this does is it straps onto the water meter outside. They have different models of this, or they did. I don't even see the other models actually. But it's self-install. You just go out to the water meter and you see this is a different picture than what I have. You go out there and you put it on your water meter, and yeah, I'm showing these guys. And it senses pressure fluctuations in the meter somehow. It's amazing technology. And you don't have to do any plumbing. Anyway, I have one of those, and it's got an integration with Home Assistant, so I just pull in via the API the Flume data. And you can see here my usage for the day. The week is kind of high because when the water came back on, the water heater was empty, the toilets were empty, all this stuff had to be refilled up that was empty. Plus we're pulling in a lot of water so we can boil it in bulk. So we're having to fill up things with water since we don't have, we're still under a boil water notice. So, okay, what's going on? Anything? I would be very disappointed if the blue just decided to explode because I put a username on it. Let me just double check that it didn't move to some other IP address. I mean, that's quite possible. I don't know why it would do that. Let me find my IP address for my stuff here. Give me a second. I'm going to look at my Unify and see if it's showing up under a different address now or at all. So here's my Unify over here. Let me make that fit in the window for y'all. And if I look at clients and I look at uptime and wired, just to narrow it down. So this is my current Home Assistant. And I don't see that on there at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what is not what I don't like to do, but I will, is I'm going to unplug the thing because I think it's not even on the network. So if something has happened, it doesn't show up on my network at all. So I'm going to unplug it now. Yes, I'm making faces because I don't like doing this. I don't want to blow out the drive or corrupt something. I'm going to plug it back in. And we're going to give it a second. And I'm going to watch this here. Let me get this out of the way. I'm going to watch the uptime on my wired devices, and I'm going to see if this comes back to life. I can't even see lights on here. Just because I can't see them. Not that they're not there, I just can't see any lights. That'd be the shortest lived blue I've ever seen if it doesn't come back. Oh, look, here, it's already here. So it's back. I don't know what it did. Let's see if it's still building itself or if it's... Oh, that's the wrong browser. Like, okay, so it didn't create my account. It's interesting. I know I've talked about this before in some of my live streams as well as my a couple of my videos. I left like this kind of stuff in the video, and it's because I want to show that things, for those of us that create these videos and these how-tos and stuff, it doesn't always go as planned. I spend some time doing editing, and it's for this reason, because you don't need to see this stuff necessarily all the time, but I do want to highlight that it does occur. Oh, okay. Well, that was, I don't know what happened before. I'm just going to, this one's going to be BC Blue for my street. And I'm going to go with Imperial. I will change my position later. Actually, I'm going to try to do it now, just to give me the time zone correctly. And it's already found my printer, and it's already found my ESP device, my fridge temperature sensor, on my Wi-Fi, or on my home network. And I'm going to finish. This stuff I talked about on the Raspberry Pi 4 install, it's Home Assistant. It doesn't matter what device it's on. It still does this kind of stuff. Okay, so now it's up and running. Do you want to say login? Sure, why not? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to, under Snapshots, I'm going to try to upload a snapshot this way rather than doing it from the beginning the other way, and see if it'll take it this way. All right, so here it is. So it's telling me the maximum allowed file size is 1 gig. It didn't tell me that when I was trying to do this initially. So I wanted to see how it would perform doing it this way. And that's what I thought the problem was. It's too big. So if your snapshot is too big, let's see what we have here. If it's more than 1 gig, it can be faster and more efficient to make use of the Samba add-on. Okay, cool. I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you how I set up Samba, because then I can just go get it from the backup where it's sitting now. So let's go to add-ons store and let's download Samba Share, install it, and then we're going to go from there. So this gives you an alternative for pulling in a snapshot bigger than 1 gig. If you've been running Home Assistant for any length of time, you probably have, and you're doing things like me with Influx and Grafana and Node-RED and all these other add-ons, you're going to have a pretty big backup. And that is why it takes so long to back it up, because I'm backing up, multiple gigs worth of data. And here I'm still running at 37 watts. It's interesting how the backup takes more power. It usually idles about 25 watts. And when I'm running the snapshot, I'm running about 10 watts more for the backup. I don't know if that's because the drive is running or what, but I would suspect it's probably related to the drive and maybe a little bit of extra CPU usage trying to go through that. Okay, so now I've got the Samba installed, and I have to remember how I did this. I'm going to have to pull this offline. Let me look at my Samba Share on my other setup here. Let me take this out of the window for you all so you don't steal all my local network information. All right, I'm going to find it over here. And I'm going to look at my configuration. Okay, I'm going to configure this real quick off of the window. It'll take me about 3 seconds here. I'm just going to copy the whole thing over to my add-ons on the other device. Oops. What did I do with it? I pulled the wrong one. All right, hold on. This is what I want. Just a moment. Just a moment. I'm going to save it. I'm going to go back over to info. Let's see if it starts up now. Put this back in here. All right, let's see if it starts without causing an issue. And let's look at the logs. Browser sending election packet. So maybe we'll see. Now I'm going to try to restore it from that. And I closed my other thing down. Is that amazing? Let's do 8123. That's not where I want it to go either. Okay, so I'm probably still running a snapshot backup too. So let me just go back over to the supervisor and look at what my snapshots are doing. Now it won't tell me anything because it's not, I went off the screen. So I'll have to refresh that. It said, I don't know if it's running, but let's go back and look at the notes here. So it can be faster if it make use of the Samba add-on folder and transfers files to the backup directory. So I need to figure out now how I get it from there to the backup directory. Can I upload directly into this? Let me go to supervisor, snapshots, upload snapshot. So how do you use it now? That's a question. Who knows how to use this? I use it for sending stuff over. I'm just not sure how. Is there a browser? Let me look. Is there a Samba Share browser? Documentation. Navigate to your Home Assistant front end, add-on, find the Samba Share, install it. All right, save, check, okay. If you're on Windows, use this, okay. The add-on exposes the following directories over SMB. Option, okay, so I think I probably need to also add in a file explorer or file manager, what is it called? File something, hold on, file editor. Let's see if that will let me talk to the Samba Share. Copy the snapshot to the blue. Yeah, I know. No thanks. Is there a way to do that with Samba? Using the Samba install? It says, you know, obviously it says to do that here. If it's bigger than 1 gig, use the Samba add-on. Samba. So where is file manager? Start it up. File editor. Showing sidebar. So file editors here, is it going to give me access to my Samba Share? Don't know. New file? Nope. You have to do it from your PC. Oh. So I have to, I get what you're saying. So I have to be able to talk to this device on my thing. Let's see if it shows up. I use my one button. Yeah, map the shares. Let me see if I can map that. If it shows up on here. 104, 193, 193. X. X marks the spot. 172.16.1.121. And does it see anything? It's trying to find 121. You know, and I could always SCP it if this is running SSH. So let me also install that. I'll give it even another way to do this. Yes, I want to close that. Going back to supervisor, add-on store. Let's do SSH and terminal. Oh, is there no SSH for this? I'm going down the rabbit hole here. Hey, so y'all that know more about Samba than I do, so to map this, I've created a configuration to talk to my share, which is on my Well, how do I tell what work group this is on? These things here. Like, I think this is my desktop maybe that I'm talking on now. How do I find it? Do I just browse without an IP address? And I know there's a 30-second lag between what I'm asking and what it shows on here. So if I go to Samba Share and I go to configuration, hold on, let me pull this off real quick and then I'll just undo the configuration. I want to, yeah, so I have, oh, I know. So it's got username and password on it. So what do I do to get that? How do I map that share with a username and password? 168. Did I type it wrong? Hold on. Oh yeah, okay, so // let me try that. Back over to this. Let me map a network drive. 172. I'm a Linux guy. I don't use this kind of Windows share stuff. It's crazy. Whoops, 121. Let's see if we go here. Ah, look at that. Oh yeah, I know y'all probably can't see it, but hold on. Let me put a password in. I've got it now. And there we go. Remember my credentials. All right, so we have backup. Okay, so now I have mapped, y'all can see it, I have mapped the backup directory. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that file here. It's over here. Let's take it from here. This file, copy, and I'm going to put it, when you're in dark mode, I can't tell where I can't see. They're all dark. I can't see which thing's the right deal here. All right, so I'm in my thing on my backup directory. I'm going to paste it in here. Oh my gosh. I have 1 gig networking in the house. What in the world? All right, so we're mapped it, right? And I'm now taking that file. Let's see how big it is. Let me see how big that file actually is. Is that 2.5 gig roughly? So it's a 2.5 gig backup snapshot file. And I'm now moving that over to the backup directory on the blue. And when that gets done moving itself over to the backup directory on the blue, that should show up in my snapshot section. Not here, that's the wrong device. It should show up in my snapshots directory under the under here, then I can use it. More details of C size and time. Yeah, I don't want it to tell me how slow it's going to be. I have a gig network. Why is it so slow? 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So we have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Yeah, it's true. File IO on the blue too, possibly. Okay, so and I say that a lot, sorry. I watch my videos and I say and I edit that out like crazy because it drives me nuts to hear that. I should get one of those little rubber bands and snap my wrist every time I hear, every time I say to anything. While we're waiting on this, does anybody know why there is no SSH option for the blue? Usually there's a terminal and SSH on all these. Why would we not be able to SSH into the blue? I use terminal and SSH on this one. Oh, you know what? I'll tell you why. I know why. Watch this. So some of this stuff is not allowed unless you turn on advanced mode. And I did this in my Raspberry Pi video. So I got to turn on advanced mode. Now it'll be there. They try to protect us from ourselves. So if I go to the add-on store now, I can install the SSH terminal thingy. So let's just do that. That'll probably slow my upload down a little bit. Maybe. 3 meg per second. That's zooming. And you know what's funny is this is going from the PC sitting right here on the same switch that the snapshot is, or that the blue is sitting on. It's like it's going across the same switch and it's still running at 11 meg per second. Oh, terrible. I guess you multiply that, right, by something and it gives you the actual speed. But anyway, we'll get there, and we're going to try to reinstall it. Now I have my other device up here with me, my tower. And so once we get this up and running, what I'm going to do is pull the Z-Wave stick, the AOTech Z-Wave stick from the desktop tower thing and put it in the blue. And we're going to see if all this stuff just starts to work. I'm crossing my fingers that it's going to. What time do we start this live? 12:30? So it's been about an hour. All right, cool. Cool. Okay, yeah. It says it's done. Let's go over here and look at these snapshots. I'm on the right device. And here's my Samba full backup from 12 hours ago. And I'm going to restore it. I'm going to restore everything. You can selectively restore if you want to. And if I were building this thing a little bit at a time, I would do that, but I am not. I'm wondering if I just, let's see, what should I not turn? I don't care about restoring Tattooey right now, actually. I don't care about that right now. I'm not using that actively. I'm not using the proxy manager on this device. That means I don't need MariaDB. I'll leave that. I'll leave Grafana. I'm not using this currently either. These are things I can install later if I want to put them in. App Daemon, I'm not using that currently. And then I'll leave AdGuard, Bitwarden on all the rest of these. In fact, I'm not even going to install Portainer yet. Anybody know what it's going to be before you're going to? I'm going to probably push the button before you're able to answer. But anybody see any reason not to restore any of these things? Open Z-Wave. I don't need that, do I? No, I don't. I'm going to take that off for now. Let's see what that does. Okay, so I'm going to install Home Assistant 2.3. I know there's a newer version actually, but I'm going to install that one. And then the configuration, the local add-ons, SSL, the share, and then all my add-ons. And here we go. Let's see what happens. Are you sure you want to partially restore that? You bet I am. And just to see what happens now. I don't see any smoke. Are we watching for smoke? Oops. Is it getting warm? No. There's no heat on this thing at all. Zero heat. Only need one Unify. Yeah, but I'm shutting down that other one. So I think that I want this to be the cloud key for now. Okay, so it's rebooting. Let's get rid of this. It's rebooting now, which means it's going to go start installing everything. This is supervised on the blue. It's supervised Home Assistant, which is what I'm running on the tower. I'm not running some complex non-supported configuration. One of the things that I'm really hoping to fix in this whole thing, you'll see this, you can maybe not read this, but it says you are running an unsupported installation. That is because I am running on Ubuntu something. I forgot what version it's on here, but that is an unsupported version of operating system now. And I would also get this whole thing. Oh, you think I'm downgrading it? Well, that sucks. Well, I don't know. No thanks, because it did have an upgrade notice on there before I did it. But I will go back and upgrade it after I check the breaking changes. Everything that I'm running now on my desktop works with the current version that I have installed. I don't want to upgrade it in this process and break something before I read the breaking changes, because I'm a stickler for the breaking changes deal. So we'll see. And then I can run an upgrade afterwards. What I was saying here is that I also would get a thing that said you are in an unhealthy state. I would get that all the time. That has something to do with Docker and some other junk that's on there. And I would have to reboot the host, the whole thing, every time I wanted to do an upgrade to either an add-on or to the Home Assistant core itself, because it would show that unhealthy state business, and there's no way around that without rebooting the host. And then I would get a reprieve of, I don't know what, a day or two, and then it would just it would come back, and I'd have to reboot again. Rebooting your host is awful because it reboots your DNS server if you're running it on there. It reboots your Z-Wave network, so you got to wait for all that stuff to come back up for it to start working again. So that was an awful problem that I didn't like. So we'll see. I should be done with the unsupported installation errors. I should be done with the unhealthy state errors that I was getting. So that'll be nice. What is the latest version of Home Assistant? Home Assistant. Let's just see what we're running now. Okay, so I am running 2.3. The blue was shipped with, I don't know what it was on there because it shipped right after the conference. So it was probably on 2020 dot something. And I'm running 2021.2.3 on my desktop. And like you said, no thanks. Looks like I'm running the latest. So even now it'll upgrade the whole blue with the newest one. So that'll be nice. And that's why it said upgrade notice was for the OS, because it was shipped with whatever came with it at the time that it was shipped a couple months ago. So we're good there. Does anybody have any questions while this thing is doing its thing? I don't see any questions today. In fact, let me look at Discord. I haven't been looking at Discord this morning for any kind of questions. Nothing is in the live stream questions on my Discord server, so I'm assuming that no one's hit the magic button for that. It automatically loads the latest on first run. So no thanks. I wonder if because I told it to restore from Snapshot, it didn't do that. Well, no, I didn't. Well, that's interesting. It still had that upgrade notice on there. Wonder why. Well, we'll see if it comes back. So what I'm going to do once this boots up, like I said, I'm going to shut down the other one, this one, this one, and we're going to run on the new blue and see what happens. Snapshot system, snapshots. Did that ever finish? Oh wait, yes it did. No, it didn't. It takes forever and ever to make that snapshot. I don't know why, but it's backing up 2 gigs worth of stuff, but it just takes seemingly forever. I mean, it could take a 30 minutes or more to do a backup snapshot. That is why I recommend that you all automate your backup snapshots. This was 12 hours ago, which is about 1 o'clock in the morning. I forget what time I run this. Oh yeah, 1:36 is when it finishes. It must start at 1 o'clock. So I'm assuming I start at 1 because I wouldn't start at some random time like this. So it takes about 36 minutes to make a full snapshot. And that's the time it wrote it to the disk. So I recommend you all run that. Go watch my video on that where I talk about it. And you can set up Google, you can set up Dropbox, you can set up a Samba Share, you can do FTP, or I don't know if you can do SCP, but you can do FTP as well. So you have 4 different ways to get the snapshot off your device onto something else so that it's truly backed up. In addition to my stuff being backed up on my NAS itself is backed up into offsite storage. So if there's a catastrophic failure of the NAS, at the same time I lose my box, let's say there's a winter storm or a winter event. And by the way, let me tell you how concerned I was that I was going to lose my equipment in my house because the UPSs would trip off because they ran out of power. Then they would come back on for 2 to 3 minutes, which my NAS might have enough time to boot up into safe mode or boot up into running mode before it has to go back into safe mode to shut down. I was concerned about losing my NAS and the other equipment to the point where I just unplugged the UPSs so that they wouldn't power back on when the power came on because it wasn't staying on long enough. I was fortunate, and I made a video. My last video was actually about replacing a wall switch, and that wall switch, it went out on Sunday, which was right before the big power thing, but we did have a couple of power blips that Sunday afternoon, and that killed my wall switch. The first one I've lost of all the switches. It's a GE thing. You can watch that video as well. But I replaced that with a Zeus Gen 4 in-wall paddle switch. It's working just like the GEs do. In fact, I think it's the same switch, honestly. It has the same physical layout. The only difference, it's made by the same company. It's just branded, it looks like, because it has, in place of the GE logo, it has the Zeus logo. Everything else is exactly the same for the most part. So I think it's the same switch. Anyway, it's replaced. You can watch the video on that. Okay, so this is 104. What are we doing with this guy? Guy, girl, whatever. Too many tabs. So we're still rebooting. I don't like the fact that I had to pull the plug the first time to get this to work, because I'm not going to know if that's doing something weird, that the plug is having to be pulled in order for this to come back to life. I suppose I can look at my cloud key or cloud thingy. My other brother, he's sending me YouTube videos to watch while I'm doing live streaming. He should be on here. Hey, Mike, tell Justin to get on here. All right, there, it's still there. It's been up 26 minutes, so it's still connected to the network, which means it's not completely dead like it was the first time. So it must still be doing its thing. If I could see it, I could watch the load on it, but it's got no connection. I would like to see the load on it while it's trying to restore all of that stuff. It's quite a bit. I mean, if it takes 30 minutes to back it up, I wonder how long on a an i5 4-core computer and a regular, it's got a magnetic drive in it. So the IOs and stuff aren't as fast as maybe a drive in the blue, but I hope it doesn't take 30 minutes to restore it. While we're waiting on that stuff, y'all have questions about anything? Y'all have thoughts in chat or anything you want to talk about? We're now in a waiting mode, which I would edit out if I were doing this in the video. But do you have any questions about anything that you want to talk about? Is everyone doing okay from the weather that lives in Texas? I know I've got some folks here that have chimed in on being in Texas with all this going on. Throw me questions. Throw me in. Let me just make sure there weren't any questions that came up here. I see Nightbot is working. Nightbot is my spam bot. I thought I'd throw in a reminder about subscribing. If you're not a subscriber, I'd appreciate it if you just hit the subscribe button while you're watching. That'd be awesome. What else? So I'm looking through some of the chats to make sure that I didn't miss anything. We're basically talking about my my Samba stuff here. Yeah, so questions, concerns. I wonder, somebody tell me, and I hope this isn't the case. Let me look at my phone. I don't see Dr. Z's on yet. Yesterday, or not yesterday, last time I streamed, his stream started right in the middle of my stream, and I could see my viewership drop off substantially at that time. So I hope that's not the case this time. And I hate sitting here waiting, but we're gonna wait for a few minutes and just see if the blue comes back. Watch, I'm gonna refresh and it's gonna. Oh. Okay. Now if it's restored from what I had before, that would mean that it would be using the username and passwords from my original install, right? Let's try it. Let me just drag this off for just a second. Is that the right password? Yes. Okay. Home Assistant is starting. Not everything will be available. So I wonder, I don't see, oh yes I do. See, now here's all of my stuff from my original install. Not everything may be available. Okay, and the other thing I'm going to do too is I'm going to permanently hide the, we're going to go dark mode. Default dashboard will be new dash. The always hide the sidebar is enabled. It gives me more real estate. Push notifications. I've never played with that. I use pushover for all of my notifications, but in the app, you can supposedly do that. And by the way, here's a question for y'all. So on my phone, I have the Android app, the Home Assistant app. If I open the app, which is going to open the old one, if I open up the app, let me use my fingerprint. Here it is. It's up and running. Everything's fine on the app. But if I do something on the app and then I come down here and I got to close it. If I close the app down and now it's off, if I go back into the app, I can't do anything on the app. It no longer responds. I have to actually go and slide the app closed and reopen it. And that has become quite an annoyance because I may open it up, look at something, and then go back a few minutes later and want to do something action on that app, and I can't do it. Yay, Home Assistant has started. So does anybody use the Android app, Home Assistant app? And if so, are y'all having any issues with the app when stopping, not responding after you open it one time and do something and then close it and go back into it? Do you have to close it completely, meaning swipe it off or whatever, to make it work? Because I have to do that every time now, and it's just awfully annoying. Automatic close connection. Keyboard shortcuts. All right, so everything else is good. Ours all that junk. So now if I go back in here, what we got? Sawn off warning. Cloud mode cannot work simultaneously. Yep. Okay, so this is a problem when you're doing it. I get that. Oh my gosh. I've been hunting for this. I don't know what this is. On my old box, it kept doing it. Every time I restart, I have this problem. And I've checked the log. Excuse me. I've checked the logs. I just don't know what it is. I need to find this and fix it because that's just awful. That annoys me too. All right, so these are all cool. Those are all expected. New dash. So, whoa. So what I don't have here, this looks like this custom. Is this new dash? It is. So this isn't. This is all custom HACS stuff. All my Z-Wave stuff is out. Okay, let's start going through a little bit at a time here. So Z-Wave JS. Let's go see what we've got going on here. Okay, so one of the issues I have is there's no device. So we're gonna do a cutover. We're gonna pull the device. So I'm going to stop on my old device. This is 104. This is my original device. I'm going to go into the add-ons and I'm going to stop Z-Wave JS from running. Wait, back up. That's not it. Z-Wave JS to MQTT. Sorry, here we go. I'm going to stop Z-Wave JS to MQTT because I'm going to pull the USB stick out. And I'm going to try to plug it in while it's turned on. All right, so while we're doing that, you use it and you don't have the issue. And Conrad, you're using the Android app, correct? I just want to clarify that. Having the same issues, that's what Mr. Simla says, thought it was a feature. Chris says, I have to close the iOS app and then switch my Wi-Fi on and off in order for it to work. Ew. That's even worse. I'd hate that. I'd have to just go to the web version only if that were the case. Yeah, I get one use out of it, and then I have to close it completely and open it back up. So I wonder if I need to go research, or someone could tell me, has there been anything opened? I don't know who maintains the app. Is the app actually maintained within, is it part of Home Assistant itself? The developers of Home Assistant maintain the app, or is that one of those offshoots? I guess the app would tell you, right, on the store. You know, while I'm talking, I always say this. Why don't I go look? I'm getting off topic. And WLED. Yeah, that I haven't played with any of that stuff. Who said that? I just saw that. Where did I see that? Thieslo says that. Yeah, I haven't played with that at all. I know Dr. Z's is all over that stuff. But what applications do you have for WLED? iOS app, mobile app. Blah, 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 blah. Mobile app documentation. Provide feedback. All right, so let's look at issues. Issues. All right, let's see. Insufficient, unify, protect. What does it have to do with the app? Oh, that's homeassistant.io. I don't need that. I need the app stuff. Home Assistant for Android official. Oh, that's the app. Crashes constant. That's February 50. Crashes constant. Had to completely clear cache and data. You need this companion app. Was great. Not so much anymore. App will not recognize my Home Assistant server now that it's set up to use HTTP, even for that. All right, so I'd have to read through all these reviews and stuff. So I don't know. I was looking for like an issues, like a GitHub page. But this says the issues companion documentation. That doesn't help me either. Where's the GitHub page for this business? Developer documentation. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to waste time on that. It is a problem for me. I don't like it. Over under cabinet lighting. If I could get away with that, I would do that. I would definitely do that. I don't think I can get away with that. There are certain things that I will just know that will not happen in my household. And we're talking about the, wife acceptance factor, the family acceptance factor. I would love to have under cabinet lighting using it, and if I just turned it on one day and she didn't see it other than the effect of it, maybe that would be okay. There are other things I want to pursue, like being able to live stream. I think that's more valuable at this point to allow to happen than other stuff. So asking for time to do this kind of stuff that I'm doing right now is more important than trying to ask for redecoration, home assistant stuff. But I would love to play with it. Maybe at some point I'll be able to do outside Christmas lights or something like that. So maybe that'll be for next Christmas. I'll be able to do something with those outside lights. The warm white ability. So can you not get, is it the lighting itself, Theslo, that you can't get it? Or is it just not an option in the app or whatever? And while we're answering that question, all right, I've turned that off on this box. I'm going to pull the USB stick out of the other one. It's out. I'm going to show and tell here since, we all want to see. I'm going to just plug this in without turning it off. USBs don't care about that, right? The stick itself, I turned the lighting off under Z-Wave.js. Oh, sheesh. Just like that. Look at that. I didn't even have to change the configuration on the device location. Let me get rid of the things. You can see it. Wow. I figured at least I would have to change the address of the USB device, but I did not. And we are restarting from cache. That is complete because that's the stick. So all of my devices might actually come back on. Alive. Let's go back over to, let me go into a new window here and bring it back up. 172. And see where we're going. They're all grayed out still, so they're not talking here. Also, let me go back over here and shut down my Sonoff thing on the other device so that I see if the Sonoff thing will come back up on the new one. Sonoff. That I'm not sure that's just going to be as easy as turning it off. Is that an integration or an add-on? I don't think it's an add-on. Sib? How about Sonoff? No. So it recognizes it, but it's got to be an integration. How How come it didn't say Sonoff? I can't spell Sonoff. Maybe it's under something else. Ring, Synology, Shelly. Okay, well, we'll come back to that. I want to see if my Z-Wave stuff will start working first. Oh, look, it is. So you can see now it's kind of blue. It's not gray anymore. Here's my air handler in the attic. What I need to do is, now this is the same device. What I need to do is actually shut down the 104 and then plug in my blue to the power monitoring device that I'm using and see what kind of voltage or wattage we're using. This is still plugged in. It's got a picture of a washing machine now because that's what I have it set up for. This is a snapshot before. Yeah, see, here's that problem. So let me, what I'm going to do is shut off. I don't need the other thing now. The other device. I'm going to probably get a bunch of alerts because I have things pointing to the address on my network, the old Home Assistant address. I could just shut it off and then use the blue and put the blue on the new address. That might be fun. So server controls, I'm going to shut down the host. Actually, sorry, supervisor. I'm going to go into the system and turn off the host. And that will actually watch my wattage will drop on the host, the desktop deal. You can get RGB or RGBW. If you have RGBW, the white channel can be warm, cool, etc. My wife hates bluish white. Yeah, so we would not be able to do the daylight, 5000K whatever version. Wait, what is it? Is it backwards? I think 2500 or something like that is the warm. And so we would definitely have to. I would definitely have to use the warmish internal temperature. I have LED lights all over the house. I replaced the incandescent bulbs with the regular dumb LEDs, but I made sure I got the warm ones, so it doesn't look like you're outdoor. I did have a failure of my refrigerator light bulb. One of the two went out, and I ordered a couple on. I have front hall motion. There's no one here. It's a burglar. I did have a failure. So I've ordered a couple of those LED bright white daylight bulbs for my refrigerator off of a big box online retailer. Wow. I'm impressed. It makes it look like it's a brand new refrigerator. It's just like, that's a good purpose for the daylight version of the light bulbs and the outside deck lights. Those are two that I will go with. But yeah, internal just like comfort and coziness or whatever. I definitely want the warm lights. So it sounds like you got the RGB. So just out of curiosity, Thesla, what are you running that on? Or what is the brand or whatever that you purchased for those lights? It's funny. Look, Home Assistant is pretty much stopped, I think, on this box, but it's still pulling around 25 watts just idle. That means it really doesn't do much most of the time. It just sits idle and runs 25 watts. I am now going to unplug it. The drive is still running. Let me give it another minute or two. I can hear the drive running. I want the drive to stop running. Oh, look. Beautiful. How do you know if something's turned off? Well, it goes to 0 watts. So we're at 0 watts-ish. That's just keep alive wattage. All right, so now I know it's off. So I'm also going to shut down the 122 or the 121 device and plug it into the power thingy, and we're going to compare wattage. Supervisor, system, shut down the host. Good night. And while that's happening, let me get my power situation ready here. My original long-running, I've been running on that desktop thing for probably 2 or 3 years now. So this is a milestone. This is the momentous occasion that I'm going from that I ran that on for so long to the new hotness. And that is actually getting a little warmer now. It's starting to work a little bit. Okay, so this I'm assuming is off. So I'm going to pull the plug on it and put it on the thing that I'm using the power for, the power monitoring. And that was the wrong plug. I just unplugged my other device, my Raspberry Pi Home Assistant. We'll see if that comes back to life. Live TV, people. Okay, now I'm running my Blue on the other thing. Now it's the one doing the power monitoring, so I have to wait for it to come back before I'm going to get power monitoring on it. So we'll give that a second here. It shouldn't. I would assume it doesn't take very long to boot, since it's basically booting off of memory instead of physical drive or a magnetic drive. All right, this one is now off, so we'll close that tab. This is my EcoWit stuff. It's not working either. So not everything came back right off the bat, and I'll be pleased if like 90% of it comes back to life without having to do some stuff. But we'll just give it a thing here. Why is that in there? I'm just checking Discord for questions. Yeah. No Discord questions. Cool. Not cool. I'm open for questions. All right, let's see here while we're waiting. Mr. Simla has watched all of my streams. I guess my videos, first time with live streams. I really enjoy making them. Typically try to do one a week, but last week was not going to happen. I uploaded that awful looking like picture of me standing on my front porch. I look back at that video on the front porch, and I'm showing like little pockets of snow here and there. It looks like, what am I complaining about? At that point, when I filmed that little 60-second short, they call them YouTube shorts. When I filmed that, I was tired. It had been 2 or 3 days already. The snow didn't look bad at that point, but we were in the middle of the whole thing at that point. And so, yeah, I mean, it didn't look bad from the video. It just, my internal body was just tired. And then after I filmed that, we got 5 inches of snow the next night. So I couldn't believe that. We had 4 to 5 inches of snow Monday overnight, and then we had another 4 to 5. It snowed Thursday. It snowed all day. It didn't stop. It started about 8 in the morning, and about 6 p.m. It finally stopped snowing. I mean, the entire day. For San Antonio to have snow for an entire day, just snowing all day, is amazing. Okay, we are back on our thing, and let's just look at unavailable. So this will take a minute. Anytime you restart the whole host, the Z-Wave network has to come back to life. It has to go and do all of its stuff. The benefit lately of using things like Open Z-Wave Beta and doing what we're doing now with Z-Wave JS is that when you restart Home Assistant, not the host, but just the Home Assistant OS itself, it doesn't restart your Z-Wave network. So that doesn't have to rebuild itself. And that means everything restarts faster. So right now, I'm assuming that the Z-Wave network is restarting because I restarted all of the whole host, the Blue. And what I should have done is brought that little temperature thing up with me. The Blue is actually a little bit warmer now than it was just sitting there, which makes sense. But I'm holding it. I mean, it's warm, like just warm. It's not, there's no heat. I mean, it's not burning me. I can set it on my desk here, and I'm not concerned at all about it melting a hole in it or anything. So far anyway, I haven't really put it to the test because it's not fully up and running for a long period of time. But let's just see here. Let's see. Late to the stream, but I'm just catching up on what you guys are saying, and I have a question about RGBW strips. I already have a 1 meter addressable strip, and I'm delighted with the results I'm reading. I'm redoing the kitchen and would like to do a lot of strips across the cabinets and kickboards. So, Onolo, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but I'm guessing. Ask your question. I am not an expert in RGB. I have not played with it much, but there are probably folks on the stream right now that can answer questions for you. So just throw it out there and let's see what we have. And he did. I have a strong 12 volt supply in the house, so would be looking for a reasonably priced 12 volt RGBW. Now, twice you said WW. That probably is correct. I thought it was a typo first. RGBWW strip that works with WLED. Sometimes I like to show the comments up here. The suggested strips on the WLED site are limited. Could you suggest one? So, Thesla, do you have a response for this question here? Because I don't. What I like to do with my streams is I like to be able to answer questions like this, and I'll do a little research as we stream here just to find out. But I think Thesla probably has an answer before I go into all that, so I'll let him chime in here and see what he says while we are waiting on. This didn't start up, or I would think it would have started up already. So let me go back over to the add-ons and make sure. Oh, warm white. Cool. All right, so that makes sense. RGBWW is warm white. Let's make sure that my add-on started up. This is what I saw. Operating system version 5.11. Oh, wow. Wow. I'm not going to do that yet. I'll do that off the stream. I don't want to kill that. This is up and running. Is it actually working? Value updated 490 ultraviolet. So node 40 is updating its ultraviolet values a lot. Wow, it's very noisy right now. There's a lot of noise on my network. Node 12 has failed. What is node 12? Let's go over to node 12 and see what node 12 is. Typically, when it fails on a restart, it's because because it's a battery operated device. Not the case this time. So everything came back before without a problem. This time, either it's really slow or something is going on here, because these are all blank and they shouldn't be. The driver's ready, which means it's talking to the stick okay. So what I can do is, I don't know. Let's just give it a second here. I may just restart ZWave.js. Maybe it was trying to do something while the system was starting up and it didn't work. Maybe it wasn't ready on the USB stick. I don't know. But I go from 12 to 22 on my nodes. That's a pretty big jump. I think that's normal though. I only had 27 to start with, so I think that's probably okay. But the fact that these are all blank is not okay. These are names I put on here to name these nodes, so that was stored on the stick itself. All right, let's go back and I'm going to restart. I don't think I can do that from here. Even brought over my polling stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go back over to, I could try to heal the network, but I don't know that I want to do that. I would like to say restart network somewhere. Let me go over to integrations and see if that makes a difference here. If I can do that down here. Configure. No. So everything's unknown even here because it's getting it from that add-on. So I'm going to restart the add-on and see if it comes back up after this. Because when I plugged the stick in, it worked fine, but it doesn't seem to be doing that now for some reason. So I need to go to supervisor add-ons. Or add-ons. I don't need to go to the store. And I'm going to restart this. I'm going to watch the logs. It just seems like there's a lot of activity going on here it seems more busy than it should be. It's Oh Noello. Cool. I'm from Ireland. I found your vids very informative. Oh, let me go back here. Blah, blah, blah. 25 meters total. I haven't found one to satisfy me just yet. I'm also looking around. I'll post in the Discord if I find one. Looking for the same. You want it to 12 volt. It seems like I'm just go straight warm white. So do y'all have to put power supplies in your cabinets for these, or is it one of those things where you have like one of those 12 volt supplies you plug into a regular outlet and then it provides 12 volt? Is it a box? I mean, I need to look around. I probably can find this looking at it, but you know, it's one thing to have the strips, but then if you have to have this ugly power supply hanging out somewhere, that would be where the wife acceptance factor would come in. I could probably hide under, if they're strips, I could probably hide those pretty easily under the cabinets if I could get the wiring to them. That would be kind of fun, actually. Surprise, I just did a bunch of lighting in the kitchen. But if I have a big old box for the power supply, that might be a problem. Noello, perfect. Ireland, I found your vids very informative. This is my first time catching a stream. Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Z-Wave JS is better than Z-Wave Beta. Would you recommend a switch after you've been using it for a while? I would go to Z-Wave JS because it's actively developed by more than one person, and it's the way I think that we're going to be going with Home Assistant. So I would be fine with it. Other than like the polling issue that I had with the lock, I'm seeing more people say that stuff they could never use is working better than it did before, than people saying things did not work after going to Z-Wave JS. So I'm comfortable going to Z-Wave JS. I would definitely switch over to it. Oh my God. You know, I don't know if y'all pay attention to aircraft stuff, but there's been a myriad of accidents in the last 2 days. I just got another alert. I'm on AirLive. I use AirLive as like, I just subscribe to their alerting. Anyway, another plane crash. That's just insane. Yeah. Part of I love aviation. I've got my pilot's license in the U.S. I do sim stuff, although this channel was supposed to be partly sim work, but I do mostly Home Assistant here, and I don't do any aircraft stuff here because it kind of messes with the niche that's on this channel. But I do enjoy it. I partake in it. But I hate to see all this stuff going on lately. I wonder how much of that is just a lack of currency out of COVID, and you know, the maintenance stuff not being kept up with and all that. You gotta wonder. All right, anyway, back. I have my current under cabinet lighting wired directly to a switch. The ones over cabinet, I will have them. Theslo, are you saying switch as in a controllable Home Assistant switch? Because I hope so. The ones over cabinet, I will have them hidden. The existing lights have the inverter built in. So okay, so the inverter is what I was wondering about. Mine will be supplied direct from a 12-volt lithium battery from a solar charger. Wow, that's interesting. How do you... So is that inside or outside, or where are you running that at on that solar charger? All right, let's see what we're doing here. Are we up and running? Node 40 is really chatty. I wonder if Node 40 is causing us a problem. Node 35 is chatty. Node 40, Node 35. Well, let's see what Node 40 and Node 35 are, because I think those are maybe causing problems on the network. All right, so that's a multi-sensor 6. Another multi-sensor 6. So I have two of my multi-sensor 6s are causing me problems. Okay, well that's an issue I'm not pleased about. Those are battery powered too, so are they gonna drain themselves doing this? What it's doing is it's causing me an issue with the rest of my devices. Is the dashboard showing anything yet? Yeah, see, so it's showing my My entire Z-Wave network is down currently. And then I have issues with the home V card. That stuff worked a minute ago. Yeah, okay, there we go. So the red was all the HACS stuff. I just had to refresh the browser to pull in all the HACS custom CSS and everything else that was on there. But my Z-Wave network is not up. And this worked fine when I plugged the USB stick directly in. I don't know why now it's not. So I'm going to try, as my next step, I'm going to try to do a heal network. And we're just going to push it and see what happens. And see if things start coming back online. And there is a debug. You can go here and you can look at the debug log, which is basically that same log I was looking at in the add-on section, and see what it's doing. I'm really concerned about this Node 40 and stuff going crazy. I mean, look at this is, if anything's going to kill a network, it's going to be a rogue device going absolutely bonkers, which it looks like this one is doing. All of these. These are my battery powered sensors too. Okay, well, let's give that a second. Maybe it'll under heal. It will do something in a minute. We'll just see. Maybe it's trying to pull a bunch of stuff. I don't know. But I want it to stop all this nonsense because it's eating my network. So I'm missing my EcoWit stuff, my outdoor weather thing. So if I go into integrations and look at my weather station, it is here. It says unavailable. And it might, I tell you why. I'll tell you exactly why. So on the EcoWit device, you actually have to point this, and I can't, let me try to see if I can do this here. It's sideways. I apologize for that. But I'm going to go to my EcoWit device, my WS View device, and I'm going to, I made a video on this. You can go find that. But I'm going to find the device itself, which is the little EcoWit sensor. And I'm going to go configure it to point to this server instead of pointing to the other old one. And then it'll start working. So if I click on Weather Services and I navigate all the way to Custom, I'm going to pull this back just to make sure. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to change the IP address. Instead of 104, which is the old one, I'm going to make it 121. I don't think you can really see that. I'm just changing the IP address, and it's also crooked. 121, and I'm going to save it. And it should start talking to this. And, you know, it's a live stream, right? So I'm just kind of going around and doing a bunch of stuff here. I'm moving from my original setup on the old device to this one. And so I'm going through bits and pieces as we go here and just see. Don't forget the light switch. And then I don't have it yet, but I'm ordering a bank of solar panels with a charge controller that will feed 12 volts to a large battery. I can pull direct 12 volts from that or feed it through the inverter. You know, I don't know what I don't know what the voltage requirement or wattage requirement is for those, but having gone through, you know, multi-hour power outage this week and pulling, you know, LED battery things out of the drawer to have to use for lighting and candles and stuff, this would actually be having something on a battery, at least to light portions of the house. I would assume that there would be under and over cabinet lighting would be enough to light a room in the dark, just to be able to see something, and have a battery off of solar. You don't have to wait for the power company to fix their stuff because you're just going to pull it off the solar panel to charge the battery, and then it probably will run for quite a while, right? So that's interesting, an interesting concept. I would like a Tesla Powerwall. I don't think that's going to happen. And check that out. Here we go. There is our data coming in now from our EcoWit device. I've pointed it from the EcoWit device, the GW1000. Yeah, and this makes sense too. You do lose some power doing conversion, so going directly from 12 volts without the inverter uses less power. All right, so we have this up and running. And if I go back to the dashboard, that's not it. Wow, that is really bothering me. That's something's wrong with that. New dash. And now we have our outside power. This indoor thing is a little sensor that's on that GW1000. The heater that runs in where my equipment is in the closet is, it'll get up a lot higher than the general house. So it says indoor, but that's where the closet where the equipment is. I expect it to be higher than everywhere else. Wind chill, there's no wind chill because it's 73 outside. My garage Sonoff device, I believe, is working. That's good. The ESP32 device is working. These are all of my Z-Wave devices. So all of my Z-Wave stuff is currently offline. My Nest stuff is working. My Flume stuff is working. This is my Raspberry Pi weather station. Its last update was 1,098 seconds ago. So that's offline. More Z-Wave is offline. This is Z-Wave. My Synology NAS stuff is working. So all in all, most of it, and my Roku stuff is working. My alarm panel stuff is working. What is not working is my Z-Wave. And when I look at it, my battery operated devices have gone crazy. I can't even get to the top of the log on this anymore. So I'm clearing the log again. This Node 40 again, I'm not sure what's happening. I mean, it does not report. It doesn't report at that. It doesn't report that fast. There's no way it's doing that. So I'm going to try a couple things here. Now we're going to start troubleshooting the Z-Wave stuff. It says healing in progress, but nothing is happening because it's I don't think there's a problem with the network. I think there's a problem with a couple of nodes that have gone rogue. And I don't even know. I don't want to unpair them. And they're battery operated. What do you do? I would have to leave and go unplug them. I may have to end up doing that in a minute. Let me completely stop the add-on. And I want to see if, so I'm going to stop the add-on. But I'm going to go to the debug log first. Debug. Start it up. I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to supervisor and stop the add-on. I'm going to give it a second to, just kind of gather itself and see if we can stop the mess. While we're doing that, I don't know if this is going to be a valid test because I stopped the Z-Wave stuff, but let's just take a quick look and do a comparison. So before, under core, I had, I don't know if I can make this any bigger. No. Zoom in. Okay, well, under core, under the tower device, I had 1.2% or 0.4% CPU, and this is 1.2. Core RAM usage was 8%. This is using 10%. So we're not very far out of the ballpark right now. That's what Z-Wave stopped. I would assume it's not going to be too much. I don't know. And if we start looking at the supervisor, 0.1 and 3.3 versus 0.1 and 1.8. So it's using a little more RAM. So overall, we're going from half a percent of CPU usage to 1.3% CPU usage total. And we're going from, let's see, 8.2 plus 1.8, so that's 10% CPU usage. And we're going to 14+%. So and not a significant jump in CPU usage on the blue. And then space used, I have 25% space used now versus 17.3% space used on, I'm actually using less space now on the eMMC on the blue than I was here. And I wonder what It's because of something I didn't import something that was using a lot of space. So there's that. So not a significant change in load using the blue. What I want to see, which I can't do until I can get my Z-Wave stuff to work, I want to see the power usage now and see how much power usage we're using. We're running about 25%. And let me just check too. Let's just see what Grafana is. This running? Okay. Now, when I start these things up, I wonder too if when I'm looking at the Grafana pages while they're working, if that makes a difference in the usage. It's snappy. I mean, it seems to be, yeah, it's super snappy. It's peppy. It's snappy. I don't want to lose the chat too. Looking for the warm white built in, it gets confusing. Buying the strips, none of the pictures shown are ever what you really get. I'm sure that's probably true, especially depending on the supplier you get those from. That's going to make a difference on what it looks like. Okay, so Grafana's up and running, which means Influx is up and running. Let's just look at Node-RED. Node-RED's always been a slow loader. Get this stuff out of the way. Man, even that seems faster. Lights, actions. I mean, I'm just really zipping through these deals. And they're all, I see that you can see they're running for the most part. There's nothing that's blacked out. So I know, see, here's my kitchen fridge temp. That's 1413. That was a minute ago. So I know that the Node-RED stuff is getting through the system into Node-RED itself. So that's all working. That's nice. Let's go back now and let's restart this Z-Wave stuff. The heart of my controlling is Z-Wave. So if it doesn't work, there's going to be a problem. I think, again, that there's something I need to restart or do something right, because it worked fine when I first plugged that Z-Wave stick in, and then it stopped working when I rebooted. So maybe I just need to give it some time here to do something. So start it up, and let's look over here and see if it's going to give me any debug logging when I start it that way. I may have to refresh this whole screen. Oh, there it goes. Okay, value added, firmware versions, undefined, undefined, undefined. Oh, boy. Okay, okay. I'm going to go back to the dashboard as a quick look to see what's happening. I want to see these turn blue. And I want to see these things not go crazy. Oh. All right, who knows what's going on here? These are battery operated devices. There's no way in the world they are doing anything with this. They're not, there's no way they're updating this quickly. I just don't, I don't know what, it seems almost like this stuff is cached and it's just loading it like crazy in here. So, y'all, I'm ready for some suggestions on some suggestions on what we should do next here on the Z-Wave stuff. Unless it's now, is it going to settle down? No. No, it's not. We're now into the troubleshooting phase of this business. Should I pull the USB stick out and plug it back in again? Because that seemed to work. So I did stop and restart it. I stopped the Z-Wave JS. I restarted the Z-Wave JS. I didn't restart the whole thing because this runs separate of everything else. I mean, it should be its own container and everything. So I don't know that restarting. Well, I'll try it. I'm going to restart Supervisor or the whole thing. Let's just try that next. Configuration, server controls. I don't know, but maybe there's something stuck somewhere. Just restart it. I'm just going to restart it. All right, so check configuration. I always do that. I'm going to restart the whole. This doesn't restart the Z-Wave network, though. That shouldn't change. But it does restart things talking to other things. So maybe I need to maybe something's stuck. Should try to wake the battery nodes. Well, if maybe they're updating on the last known value, but that means me walking away from the stream and running around the house pushing buttons and climbing into the attic and pushing buttons. Z-Wave server client disconnected. Okay, well it's supposed to not restart the network, but we'll see. We'll see what happens here. Yeah, so all these things. So it did get rid of all the Z-Wave stuff. And that's back. Now these are all grayed out, which means Z-Wave is still not up and running completely. Really? It's going to be like that? Okay. Two can play that game. I'm going to go back to my add-ons, and we're going to go back to or I'm just going to go right here. Yeah. This is concerning. I did make a backup of the stick. I mean, the thing is, this stick itself should know. Now the only other thing I could possibly be an issue, well, not really. It would be an issue if nothing was showing up here at all. That would mean the stick itself was not talking, but it says the driver's ready. But I'm going to go back over to, well, let's look at the debug log one more time. It's trying to interview all these things, and it can't get anything from it. I've talked about interference. I don't think Z-Wave has interference issues. Zigbee does sometimes on these 3.0 ports, but maybe this thing has interference issues. I'm going to slide it over like 3 inches to the right and see if it picks up the network better. I don't think that has anything to do with it. Yeah, I'm using MQTT. We all like buttons. You have to restart the network, not HA. So restarting the whole thing, I thought would have taken care of that. And there's no network itself restart. There's only healing. I can only heal things. That's a battery. That's a battery. That's smoke detector. That's battery, obviously. That's a battery thingy. All I can do is try to heal the network. I don't know what a hard reset does. What is a hard reset? That doesn't like erase everything, does it? Yes, about it. Texas does actually have power for the most part. I can't answer for everywhere in Texas, but San Antonio has 98% of the people have power. Or was that water? It's all running together now. Most people have power. The only power outages now are related to like individual equipment failure things. Okay, I do have a backup of the AOTIC stick. If I blow it away somehow by doing this, I'm going to try a hard reset. I'm going to go back to debug panel. I'm going to start the debug. Start it again. And yeah, I don't know what's... The next thing I'm going to do is wake node 40. See, and I have node 35 too. Let's figure out what node 40 is. Node 40, I think, is my attic. Dashboard and click the add-on. Yeah, Theslo, we're all concerned about it. Somebody in Dallas got a $7,000 electric bill, energy bill. I read that the energy prices went up they stopped counting at 16,000%. 16,000. If you had a $1 energy bill for last month and it went up 16,000%, your energy bill is going to be $16,000. They're trying to figure out. It's too late about it. I did it. I'm going to go find node 40. If y'all give me just a second, I don't even have any music to give you. I'm just going to walk away. Let me see what node 40 is, because I don't know what else to do with this thing. So that is an attic sensor. So I'm just going to crawl up there and push the reset. But actually, that one's powered. That one's got a plug on it. I'm going to unplug it. I don't know if that's going to help, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And let's look at this. What are these things? Study sensors. I don't know what that means. I don't know what any of that stuff means. Okay, let me go back to the debug log. Stop it, clear it, start it, and I'm going to pull the power on 40 and see if that's causing me issues. Y'all go get a beverage. I'll be right back. Okay, node 40 is off. It looks like it stopped making a bunch of noise anyway. So I wonder why, I wonder what's going on with that. That doesn't make any sense. That thing would have just failed when I unplugged it. So yeah, node 40 vanished from the logs. So I still see all these other things not... Like 35 is the same thing. All of these, and 35, let's see what 35 is. I think it's another one of those battery powers. This may be one of those things that I troubleshoot. Yeah, see, that one's battery powered. That is a multi-sensor 6 battery powered. So if I go... So about it says nothing but issues with Z-Wave.js. Still can't get my Zeus Zen 21s to function with scene button options. Thinking maybe the devs should have done private beta and work it out before public release. So in that case about it, did it work under beta? OZW beta? Because I wonder if that... I mean, it's just one of those things where you have to try it out. If it doesn't work, and then you go back to your original one. I think that's kind of the scenario or the plan. I'm going to go back over here to this thing, and what was I going to do? Give me a second here. I want to get my network key off the screen. If there is log level error, yep. This stream will not be an indefinite stream today. I may have to cut loose here in a little bit, depending on what I'm hearing from my significant other here. They're out doing something, and they'll be home in a little bit. And at that point, I'm going to have to jump. I don't know what's going on with this necessarily. One other thing I'm going to try to do, I don't advocate this very. I wouldn't do this all the time, but I'm crazy like this. I'm gonna pull the stick, the dongle out. Maybe the dongle itself ended up with a problem. I'm gonna pull it out, the USB thing, and we're gonna see if that makes any difference. And if it does, then something on the stick just needed to be powered down. I mean, that's a possibility. Although I don't, what's going on here? Okay. It's getting worse, people. It's getting worse. Let me go back in here and open up the Z-Wave.js web UI, which is no longer working. Oh, hello. The CSS is all gone. What happened to that? Okay, shift reload, fix that. Okay, I'm going to pull out this USB stick. I do have a backup of the stick in case something horribly bad goes wrong, and in which case I'll do that offline. But let's just see what happens when I yank this. And I'm going to do this with the debug log going, which you can't really see. Whoops, that was wrong. Apologies for that. That goes here. All right, let's not move that again. Let me find the other camera. Where is the other camera capture card? There we go. All right, I'm going to move this over here a little bit, and then we can all watch this together. So I'm going to pull this USB stick out. Let's get rid of it. Okay, that should stop everything from happening on this screen. And power down the USB stick. That's something I didn't do, was power down the whole thing. And that might have been more prudent than what I just did. I should see a driver. So this shouldn't even be ready. Okay, nothing should be working now, which it isn't. Go back into the debug log. Let me start the log up and plug it back in. I think that's been plenty of time. Okay, let's watch for this and see what happens. I used the deprecated Z-Wave stock, all worked with options. Still cold out. It's not cold in Texas, it's 70. It's 73 degrees. It's like a summer day. I'm wearing shorts. Be outside getting some sun. Nice flask. Tell me what that means. Stop, start. I wonder if I have to restart Z-Wave.js now that I pulled the controller out, or the hub back out. What I interesting is I didn't see the settings for the. I thought I should have. Where's the settings for the device? Oh, I know where that is. Oh, that's in Z-Wave.js. The MQTT, the add-on. Let me go back to the web UI. See, this is what is starting to concern me. I'm having some weirdness here. Like I have to force refresh it. I don't have any, and that's probably the result of me pulling out the, yeah, see all this? Where's my CSS? And there it is. I think it's overloaded. Honestly, I think it's overloaded. So let me go to settings and let me make sure that this is right. I'm going to stop the polling of my devices because I don't know how much of that is causing a problem. So I'm removing the polling. But what I'm doing is I'm going over here so you can't. I don't want to show off my network key. So let me fix the. I'm looking for the settings for the device itself. There it is. Of course, I put it back over here, and then that's where I get to show off everything. So under Z-Wave, I'm checking to make sure, and I'm going to go over here, and make sure that I've got the right device. I don't know if there's how it's even working without it, but let me just make sure I have the right device settings for this. So hardware. Wow. There's a lot of junk on here. Where's my USB stuff? It doesn't even have that listed as a device anymore. So I'm going to change it to this thing, which I'm not supposed to use. Save it. Okay. And I'm going to go back to the debug log. Bring this back for you all to see it. I love how. All right, so I just got a garage door cleared notice, which means that the thing just probably started working. So when I put it in initially, I thought that it was supposed to be, that it just picked up the device port, and that was not true. So I don't know where it was rolling through all that junk, but it sounds like it might actually be working now. So let me go back to the dashboard, because I heard the garage door thing. Yeah, look, there we go. So I'm waiting on some of this stuff, like the garage and study. Well, the attic one is unplugged. So we'll see. Okay, so that was it. It was a setting in the if you go to Z-Wave here under settings and you click on Z-Wave, it'll have that device address for your USB port. I had that long one, like it says I've said to use, but that's not an option, and I need to go figure out what that is. So I use TTY/ACM0, which I've used in the past. If I change this to a new port, it might not follow that port, so it may not work. But the point is, I changed the port back to what it was supposed to be, ACM0, or to that, not what it's supposed to be, but to that, and it's working now. Except it needs to find all these things. So now what it's doing is it's probably figuring out what all this is. Scan completed. Yeah, and now it's starting to populate names of things and figure out what all's in here. So we'll hopefully, I really hope it didn't change the names of all these things. That would really be a pain in the butt. Okay, cool. So that's cool. That's probably going to work again. And now I'm getting the garage close notice, which means it's working. Unless somebody actually just showed up. So I do have a question here. It says, I migrated to Blue, but my local address doesn't work. DuckDNS and Nabucasa work. Any ideas? What do you mean by local address, Fan of Steel? When I moved to Blue, my address changed, obviously. So if you're talking about local address, it may be a function of your local address not being, you may have changed your local address. So is that what you mean by that? And I'll talk while you're answering that. So if we look now, what I wanted to do was see the difference. So now we went from, and this only turns blue if it's the washing machine setup I have. I have it set for, it turns blue if it's greater than 5 watts. Because the washing machine display, if you set your my washing machine to start later on, it'll sit and run at 5 watts. And for my automation, I want to know when the washing machine is done. If it's sitting at 5 watts and the display is on, it won't tell me it's finished. Anyway, the point is, this will turn blue at 5 watts for my washing machine. But for now, 1.52 watts versus what I was running at 25 to 35 for my desktop system. So already I'm down 20 watts of usage just by running the blue. And the blue feels nice. It's not hot at all. So I think this is going to be a winner as long as the Z-Wave stuff fixes itself here shortly. You can start to see that it's going through and getting everything. The garage door thing, when I first went to Z-Wave JS, didn't work. But the fact that it already alerted me it was opening and closing, it does that when it starts up. It means it's probably working fine. Okay, cool. So let's just take a quick run through real quick. What we did was we took and we moved from the, what is this thing? Lenovo the Lenovo ThinkCenter Mini Desktop in the M82. We moved from that to the Blue. I took the snapshot backup from the original device and put it here and started it up. Then I moved the USB Z-Wave stick over, and then I did something and broke it, and then I fixed it. So if I had actually specified the right USB address when I moved my Z-Wave stuff over to this blue, then it would have worked fine. So I spent a lot of time wasting time, but that's how it works sometimes, right? See, Home Assistant Local 8123. So I never use that. And it's because I'm dumb, or I'm not smart enough to do that. I don't think half the time this resolves correctly, or I don't know how to do that right. Your Home Assistant Local, if you already had a Home Assistant device on your network, it's going to try to, you've probably got that cached in your router or in something that is still, and if the other device is still on, it may already have this set as its host name. You're going to have to somehow go into your router, and you're going to have to force that Home Assistant.local to point to the new address. So that means turning off the old thing, or I don't know what router you have, what device you have. You may have a way of going in there and specifying the host name on the router itself, and then it will point it to the right address. So the fact that DuckDNS and Nabucasa works means it's working just fine. Was the Lenovo not good enough? I will tell you 2 or 3 reasons why I wanted to get off the Lenovo. Number one, that is the device. The hard drive in there is very noisy. This was something I picked up. It was in my attic where it was 120 degrees for probably 2 years. I figured I would just try to use Home Assistant on it a few years ago, and I did. It's been working fine since, but it's really loud, number one. And then while we had all this power issue stuff going on over the last week here in Texas, my UPS at 25 watts for just the Home Assistant, and that UPS, by the way, also ran my computer that's got my cameras on it. So I'm probably running about 50 to 70 watts on the UPS. It's only a 1500 kV or 1500 whatever device. It didn't last very long. So I got the Blue thinking I would move to the Blue at some point. And so I did, or I was forced into it because I wanted something that was less power hungry. And so early in the video today, we talked about going from 25 watts. 25 to 35 is what the desktop was running, the Lenovo. I wanted to bring this down to something that I could run longer in case of power outages. So we went from 25 to 30 watts, 35 watts, down to 1 to 2 watts. So that's part of my goal. The other thing is, I don't need to run Home Assistant. That was the only thing on that Lenovo. I can do something else with the Lenovo now. I have a lot of different things I do with these PCs that I can now just dedicate the Blue directly to Home Assistant and have a single device that's doing my Home Assistant, and then use the Lenovo for something else. So those are kind of the driving factors. I went from a Raspberry Pi 3B or B plus or whatever it was, Raspberry Pi 3 B plus, I think, to the Lenovo because the B plus wasn't enough to do anything or enough to run what I was running. So the idea today is to move everything I'm running now over to the Blue and see if it runs okay without any issues. And so far we've kind of shown, early on in the video I showed this. This was the Lenovo and its resource usage. And then we compared that, just a few minutes ago to what the Blue's resource usage is, and it's not a significant difference. So, if you're running, you've got a Dell Wise, upgraded HD to SSD, and it works great, right? There was nothing wrong with the Lenovo other than I realized that I just wanted something that was less power hungry for this, which this is, the Blue is. And it's fun to play with, right? And it's helpful to others that are moving over. Again, I can now take this Lenovo and do something else with it. How do you know if your Raspberry is failing? That's a loaded question. Stops working. I I don't know. It says Alex Intra. I don't know how you tell if it's failing. Is there something? Can you be specific about that question? Because if you have things like it stops running, or if you can look at the thing and see if it's the drive goes into read-only mode or something like that. Those are the things you would know are failing. Typically, your Raspberry Pi isn't going to fail. Your SD card's going to fail. And then things just stop working at that point. That's when you're going to know it's not working. Other than your hardware, I mean, I've got Raspberry Pis that have been running my ADSB, my APRS stuff in the attic for years. Anywhere from, well, this week, 7 degrees Fahrenheit to 125 degrees Fahrenheit, and all temperatures in between. And they've been running for years with no problem. The hardware's been just fine. Not capable. No, I meant like I started putting Node-RED. I started putting Grafana. I started putting all these add-ons onto my Raspberry Pi. All of that's running on an SD card. Number one, and a Raspberry Pi 3 it's going to start slowing down when you start doing that. Number two, you're starting to write like Grafana or the InfluxDB stuff. You're trying to write to the database all the time. And so you're writing to the SD card all the time. And so eventually the SD card is just going to fail just because it's not designed to run like that. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying it wasn't enough. Not that the hardware failed. I was concerned for those reasons. And plus, when I start loading it down with more things, there isn't enough processor power to run all that stuff. Thesel is headed out. Appreciate it, Thesel, stopping by. I'm going to have to run off too. It's been one of my longer streams, but that's because no one's home and I can get away with it. What am I using to monitor house power? I am using an old version of a thing I will find for you here. Let me look it up and I'll tell you. It's a Z-Wave whole house monitor. That thing has been outside in every bit of weather for 5 years and it just keeps kicking. I mean, it's on the wall outside. It's amazing. I can't believe it's still running. There are times when I forget about it and it's still running. But let me look up what it is real quick for y'all. It's listed on my channel too, description. I think there's a link, Amazon link for that too, but I will find it. Power, maybe? I'm looking for what I can find for it quickly here. Sheesh. There's a lot of things I've ordered with the word power in them from a certain big box retailer. I think if I look at the control panel, it probably tells me what it is. Hold on. If it has found it yet. Oh, it doesn't know yet. It's a Aeon Labs Home Energy Meter G2. They don't make those anymore. They make a newer version, but it's the same. I mean, they do make them. They're just not. They don't make that one I have anymore. And let me show it here now. So this is what I have. Aeotech Aeon Labs. This is a newer model. It looks like. I have the 2. What did it say I have? I have the G2. This is a 2E. IP43 rated. Reports wattage, kilowatt hours, and voltage in real time. Mine is sitting outside on a brick wall on top of the load center. And these 2 clamps are inside my 220 box directly from the power company. So that's what I'm using to monitor it. And you can see that here, obviously. The reason I monitor it at the 220 side is it gets the air conditioning and it also gets the dryer, because both of those are 220 volt, and the oven and stove. Those are all 220 devices. Everything else in the U.S. is 120, but this uses the feed outside is not 220, 240. Wait, what? 110, 220, whatever it is. It measures all of my power in the house, not just like what comes in on one leg of the 110 side, which would be what I would have to do inside the house. Let's see. Do you have a good example how a trend sensor works? What is a trend sensor? I'm gonna give it about another 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna jump off here. And I know this has been a longer video. But I wanted to get this stuff up and running for y'all while I did this on the video. So what are you doing with a trend sensor there, Mr. Semla? Because I have not used it. Platform trend. Is this just trending, as in like the word trend? Let me read this. The trend platform allows you to create sensors which show the trend of numeric state from other entities. The sensor requires at least 2 updates. Thus, it can take some time to show an accurate state. Oh, that's cool. So you can base an automation on a trend. This has been around for a long time. I've never seen this before. So I mean, most of my stuff I do in, I graph everything that I want to keep up with in Grafana, especially like things like the weather. I don't see any updates recently. Huh. I wonder if my EcoWit stuff actually changed names since I pointed it over here. Anyway, I trend everything, including my power. Someone was asking about power. So some of this stuff didn't. Oh, you know why the power didn't come across? Because that snapshot I took was from last night, and I added the power for this thing earlier today. That's interesting. I wonder why this isn't doing anything. It's not 46, it's 70. It stopped reporting at, midnight. Well, that's disappointing. Well, we'll work on that later. So trend sensor. So what do you do with the trend sensor, or what are you trying to do specifically? It looks like you just I don't know how it works necessarily, other than you put in a couple of devices and then you can do things with it. So let's say, if the sun is rising, says you have 2 sensors, sun rising, entity ID sun. The example indicates true if the sun is still rising. So as the sun is rising, then it creates 2 sensors to indicate whether the temperature is rising or fall. Okay, this one is rising or falling. So you have trend, temp falling, or trend, temp rising. And I assume you can do something on it. This seems like it can be done a whole more like with Node-RED or some other automation under conditions. Trying to figure out if temperature is rising or falling. Okay, so that's what this is, right? So you look at your sample duration. You need to figure out what your entity is going to be. You're going to measure. And then your minimum or maximum gradient. And then you can come up here and look at this. The minimum rate at which the observed value must be changing for the sensor to switch on. So in this case, it has to change by 0.0008 down or up by 0.0008 for this sensor to enable. So this basically would say under temp falling, you would have a sensor called temp falling. It would either be on or off, or true or false, I'm not sure which, on or off, if the temperature rised or went down more than this amount in this duration. And then conversely, if the temperature went up this amount in this duration, this temperature rising would then be true or false, or on or off. So it seems pretty straightforward. You just would create something like this. And now it says it needs 2 sensors in order to trend. Or no, it needs 2 updates. Okay, yeah, so 2 updates. So yeah, you would just do that. You would just set something like this, and then you would set the amount of change you want. And if this change happens 2 times in the duration, it would turn that sensor on. You would build some automation or something on that. I want to monitor my whole house as well. I'm considering the Shelly sensor. I live in San Antonio. Shelly sensor. Which one are you looking at? Uh-oh, there you go. Shelly sensor, power monitor, home assistant. I get my Google View going here. Shelly EM, let's see what this is. There we go. Care. Where is the sensor? Products. Shelly EM. Okay, this is Shelly EM. I want a picture. Oh my gosh. Get out of my way. Okay, so you don't have any. I am using Zappy Zap. I'm using Synology NAS. I have 5 terabytes usable. So small nowadays. Interesting on this sensor because you have to actually. Oh, you can get these things. So this is a clamp. I need 2 clamps. So you would need the 2 clamps. I mean, personally, I need the 2 clamps. 50 amps. But I don't know what amperage I'm running. I accept. And the site's broken. And it broke my browser. So 41 pounds versus what the other cost of the other one is, which I don't have here. Well, I broke it now. Nothing's working. I don't know because I need to look at this, but you need 2 clamps because in the US you have 2 sides to the circuit. So I would assume you would at least need to go with the 2 amp. I can't tell the difference because the site, in fact, this broke my entire browser. Well, this tab anyway. Let me refresh. What does this say? Okay, so 250 amp clamps. So 2 independent measuring channels up to 120 amps each. 1 contact connector, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say right off the bat is this is not IP, this is not outdoor rated. My panel is outside on the brick, on the outside of the house. So if you're going to want to monitor something that's outside, you're going to need to have an enclosure and you're going to have to seal it versus buying something like the sensor I have that's already completely self-contained. So you're going to have to think about that first. Then you're probably going to want 2 clamps because on mine, even though I show here the total power, this is actually the 2 clamps combined because there's 2 legs that come in, or 2 legs that come in, 2 feet. Rawr. Anyway, there's 2 legs, so you need to have a clamp on each leg to get total power. And I can look at each leg and they should be equal for the most part, I think. If they're not, then there's another issue with that. So these things are still not working. I would say, oh, your panel's in the garage. Well, then you might be all right. I have one in the garage, but it's not the 220. It's the 110 panel. If all of your power from the power company comes into the garage and you have that 220, then you're good. The reason I'm doing the 220 again is I can't measure things like the dryer or the air conditioner or any of that without being on the 220 legs coming in. I could measure everything else in the house on the 110 side with just the 110 legs coming in. And if you look at your panel, you have the 110 leg, you have 2 sides, and each side is 110. You put in your circuits in that panel coming in, and each one is fed 110. Where you have your dryer and that kind of thing, the 220 comes in, and that your breakers are across both of those 110 lines to give you the 220. So where you put the measurement depends on how your house is wired up and stuff like that. So yeah, same 2 legs. Yeah, so because you're in the US, you're going to have the same kind of power setup. You can get 2 legs on the 110 in your garage. You just have each side is feeding 110 each. I suppose you could figure out you could probably combine those and get the total, but my dryer and my dryer and my stove, my dryer and my oven and my air conditioner are not brought, they don't come into that panel in the garage for me. So they don't ever show up there. I have to measure them out at the source panel. So if everything comes into the one panel, you can measure it that way. And then you can use something like that Shelly. You probably want both, a dual. You want both of these things. And I don't know if this comes with wires or not. You'd have to wire this thing up and do a lot of stuff. I need to read some more on it before I can give you a real good idea. And that's interesting. So it stores 365 days of internal memory. Yeah, so there's a box on the side of the house. That's where mine is. That's probably where your 220 comes in. And then it feeds the internal box inside your garage. That's pretty standard these days. Depends on the age of your house too, and how old the wiring is in the house and all that. All right. Well, I have some work to do because the garage sensor is not talking. It has to probably be woken up. I've had to wake that and the study. Both of these are multi-sensor 6. They probably have to be woken up, and then they'll be fine. I need to go back and plug the attic one back in. It's also a multi-sensor 6, but I have it plugged into a USB power up there. I need to plug it back in. This is the study temperature. That's, of course, the same problem. It looks like most everything else is working on the blue. And again, the blue is pretty darn cool. So I'm not worried about overheating or anything like that. It's running at 1.5 watts, which is fantastic. So on if I plugged it into its own UPS, it would run forever. I do need to go figure out what's going on with my EcoWit stuff in terms of the what's that thing called? The Grafana stuff isn't working exactly right. I don't know why, but it's not updating. I wonder if Influx just isn't started up. So I need to check that. So there's a little bit of work to do, even though everything seems to be up and running and you move it over to blue, there's still a little bit of work to do to make sure some of those edge cases are working. Like the EcoWit thing, I had to point it to my new IP address. If you're doing something like home assistant.local, and let me go back. What did he say about that? So home assistant dot, I got to find it. Where is it? Somebody asked about the node, the IP address stopped working. Here it is. I figured it out. I was using HTTP and added HTTPS. Okay, perfect. So when I was checking the address to share with you, yeah, that happens. We always, when we talk it out, we usually figure out what we did wrong while we're talking about it, and then we feel silly. Where their fruit flies around it. Probably. It was in the attic though. Or no, it wasn't. House power, thank you for that. Okay, headed out. I'm just checking to make sure I didn't miss any questions. Yeah, you should never trust the SD card, ever. That does not always work. It's just they're not designed for this kind of work. In fact, you'll notice I have no history enabled on this because on my Lenovo, I didn't want it writing to the disk all the time. It was too chatty. So I may turn history back on this so I can have a quick click because I can't click here. There's no history because I have that disabled. And with this NVMe stuff or eMMC, I might want to turn that back on again. What else we got? Whole house, we talked about that. And 22 years. Yeah, my house is 10 years old, I think. Something like that. All right, this has been an awesome 1 hour, 2.5 hour-ish plus stream, which is cool. I really enjoy the streams. I know I didn't have a video this week for y'all. Just Texas got hammered. We got beat up. I would like to check my phone when I'm done with the stream and have them tell me that the boil water notice is lifted. If it is not, I'm going to go boil some water. So we have some drinking water. Apparently, you're not supposed to cook with that water not boiled. You're not supposed to brush your teeth. You're not supposed to do anything. So we try to keep some a supply of boiled. And you got to boil it and then cool it. And that takes a long time. So hashtag, whatever problems. So anyway, appreciate y'all hanging out on the stream today. If there are no further questions, I'm going to go ahead and call it here. I'm surprised that Dr. Z's has not jumped on today. He usually, he has, 2:39. So Dr. Z's went up about 30 minutes ago. And so that's when my viewership looked like it dropped off, as a matter of fact. That's pretty amazing. So I'm going to jump off this stream, end it for today, and let Dr. Z's do his thing, and y'all can run over there if you want. And I appreciate the view and the questions today. I like playing, and that's what I did today was play, and maybe this was helpful for some of y'all. And so keep the questions coming up. Discord's always there. You can chat on this once it gets released. I don't know what happens when I stop. It usually takes about half a day for this video to show up in my video list because it has to process through YouTube. But hit the Discord if you have questions. I try to answer those. I try to answer most of the comments on YouTube as well. And so hit me up over there if you need any additional assistance. And y'all have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Wait, is this Sunday? Yep. And then a good work week or good week. And we will see you on the next video. Thanks so much.